Hi everybody, Kat here. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be painting a fiddlehead upon request. So I hope you tune in, get your supplies ready, and let's get started. For my supplies today, I am using any kind of green. Try and have like a sap green, and then try and have a cool green, which would be like a hooker's green. You can use some indigo as well to mix in. I'm using cotton paper, but I did a couple of mock-ups because this is the first time I'm painting a fiddlehead. I did that on cellulose paper and it was perfect. 2 cups of clean water and a couple of my favorite brushes, and we shall get started. So the fiddlehead, it's a baby fern. The fiddlehead is more complicated to paint than the frond. So this I will start with because it takes more time, but I won't film the whole thing. I'll start and then I'll skip ahead. Actually, I am going to start with the fiddlehead, a very loose, watery sap green, extremely watery. It's just to get an initial layer of paint down, like this. So it looks like a little bit of a question mark. I'll leave a drawing at the beginning of at the end of the video, at the beginning. This is the beginning. And to make it look round, these little baby fronds, the little leaves, are all rolled up, curled in here. So I want to establish some darker shadowing under the bottom here so that it looks round. And we can go in later and do more finessing, but just want to establish the base layers with some darker green. I'm going to put a center in here, and it kind of looks a little swirly. Now don't forget, this is extremely watery and it's in its early stages, so it's going to fade out. It's going to dry a lot lighter is what I'm trying to say. Oh, you're getting a shadow. It's extremely sunny right now. Okay, so now I'm going to get started on the frond, and I'm sorry for the noise of my computer. I have to leave it on sometimes. So I've just lightly sketched out with a watercolor pencil. I used like an ochre color. Just lightly sketched out the shape of the fern that I want, and then some of the little the leaves that branch off. I know there's a name for them, but I can't recall right now. So I'm going to take a fairly small brush. I would say it's a milky consistency, not tea, as some people say, not watery. And I'm just going to start. I'm pushing the point down and up. Point down, up. So when I get that initial one done, we're going to repeat this on each of these stems. And what they are is actually, it's a replica. It's like they replicate themselves. So what this whole fern looks like, this frond, each individual stem looks exactly the same as this whole frond does. But, you know, it depends on how much detail you want to add to yours. You certainly don't have to add every single little I can't remember what they're called. I guess for now we're going to call them a leaf, okay? You don't have to add every single one because you'll be here all day. So I'm putting my point down and flicking up. They're close together. And don't be afraid if you go over the stems, because it just adds some interest. I'm trying for you not to get a, let me zoom in. Let's see if that's a little better for you. I just want you to be able to see what I'm doing with my brush. So I'm just taking the point of my brush and flicking it. I'm letting it settle, and then I'm flicking it out. And they're close together, and I'm flicking it off. So it depends on what you're most comfortable with. You might be more comfortable working away from yourself, and you might be more comfortable working toward yourself. I'm more comfortable working away from myself, but the variation you'll get if you move your hand around is kind of nice as well. When you're using a small brush, the problem is it doesn't stay wet as long. So I think I'll do one more like this, and then I'm going to go ahead and do it off screen. So push and lift, and push and lift. Now we're getting a bit bigger. Make sure they're close together. So you can see a little bit more detail. So I'm going to carry on, and when I get down here, they're going to be more detailed, so I will start filming again. Okay, so now I'm down towards the bottom of the frond, and as you can see, I've changed a little bit of the shape of the tiny little leaves. So I just want to show you how I did that. And I'm going to start at the bottom here, and this one's going this way. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to make a zigzag, and you can leave some air. Make sure they touch, leave some air between. It's okay. And they just get a little shorter and shorter as you near the top. And this one is kind of going off the page, so that's okay. It's a little better if you have a brush that's a bit stiffer than this. This is not quite stiff enough for what I'm doing, but it will do for now. I'll change it in a second. So I'm dropping in some darker green towards the inner stem. And if your paint is already dry like this one, then you just kind of work it in yourself. But I kind of like that painterly look. That doesn't bother me in the least. If you don't like it, you just soften it out. Okay, so I'm going to try my Aqua Elite, my Princeton. It's a size 6. So this has a bit more of a spring to it, so I'll see if this works a little better. So I'm coming along here. Need a bit more water. And they're touching. And they're zigzaggy. You want most of your attention to be on this little guy here, on the Fiddlehead. So that's why I'm not doing ultra detailed work on this larger fern, because you want your attention somewhere else. And the more contrast and the more detail you put, the more attention people are going to pay to this. You don't necessarily want that. You want to add a little spice to your painting, but you don't necessarily want to avert the attention away from this, because that's kind of what the star of the show is. And I'm going to put one more this way. There are all different shapes. This is called an ostrich fiddlehead and fern. That's the most common one that people eat. I don't eat them, so if you do, I would like to know how, like, what do you eat them with? How do you cook them? Do you saute them in garlic, and are they bitter? I don't really know anything about them, and that's why I've never really eaten them. It's kind of like a catch-22. If you don't eat them, you don't know anything about them. Just dropping in a little bit of darks here. Okay. Back to the fiddlehead. It's still not dry, so I'm going to dry it with a hairdryer. On my mock-up, I did each individual swoosh, and I didn't zigzag them, and I found it a little bit a little busy, so that's why I've reverted to this. I think I didn't revert, I resorted to this. I think that this looks a little more natural and kind of fun, and the attention will be back on the fiddlehead. Okay, so here comes the fun part. Take your small brush. I'm going to start with a size 2, and I'm going to take my warm green. So you can see that this already looks round, and this here is the center at which all of these are all curled up. So each one is curled kind of towards the center, and they're much smaller than this, of course. So we're going to attempt to paint those. And to guide me, just so I can decide where it is I want them to be, I'm just going to paint in a teeny tiny bit of raw sienna, just as a little vein. And it's really teeny tiny. It's just for me to see. And I'm going to take my it's like a sap green that I've mixed. I mixed it myself. You don't have to mix your own. And I'm just going to paint these little tiny leaves. And don't worry about what color you're using, as long as it's a teeny bit darker than what's on your paper now. Because we're going to go in, as with any watercolor, we layer. And we usually start light to dark. So I can always go in a little darker if I need to later. I just want it a little less watery. There we go. Make sure you dry the water off your ferrule. That was my mistake. I didn't do that. So can you see they're little tiny, I think they're called pinnas, if that's the scientific name. I'm not quite positive, but I'll look it up if I remember. Okay, and I'll put some down there, and those ones are going to be a little darker because it's at the bottom. So the sun can't get under there. The light can't get under here. So these ones are going to be darker. I'm going to allow this to dry, and I will be right back. Okay, it's not quite dry, but while it's drying, I want to put a couple of these fronds around here. Now, of course, the color will have to be slightly different than what is on the stem so you could see it, right? So when it goes over the stem, it's going to be a little darker. Okay, so it's a little baby one. There's another one. And while this is still settling, I am going to try to make this look a little more round. So I'm going to wet it with a bigger brush, not soak it, but just, and be gentle because you did just paint this after all. So you don't want to disturb too much of it. Just gently. And with a deeper green, it could be the same green you used, just less water. I just want to make this look a little more rounded here. I guess I didn't get the water close enough because there's no, it's not bleeding out like I wanted it to. I don't mind a few hard lines, but this soft bleeding always makes things look nice and rounded. My little channel, I know that you all have, there's so many options for you out there, and I'm so honored that you watch my channel and you give it a chance. I'm so pleased. I think that dried on me already. I don't have heat on, although today is May, what are we? We're May 17th here in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and it is -2 outside. So everybody's been in their shorts and longing for the summer weather, and it's -2 now. I don't know what Mother Nature is. She's a little mad at us, I think, because this is unbelievable. Okay, and I'm dropping it just over here, assuming, of course, that the light can't reach it. And over here too, just a little bit. Okay, there we go. So I'll wait for that to dry a little longer. I'm going to include a couple of little ones here. They're just so fun to do. This is, you know, I always talk about how relaxing watercolor should be for you. And I really mean that, because I think most of us, no matter what your lifestyle, I think most of us can use some downtime and just to relax and not worry about the outcome of something. So I just want you to enjoy yourself. I'm going to put one here. And I'm going to turn my work around. So do that. Turn your work. Make your life easier. Sometimes I can't do it because of the video, and I've got my setup, it's like kind of semi-permanent. And so I can't turn my work sometimes, or else it would mess up the lighting. Same thing over here. It's just a fun project, and I thank you, Teresa La Douceur, for giving me the suggestion. She made a request, and you know, if I can do it, I will take requests. If you ask me to paint, if I feel I can't paint something, or if I try and I really don't think it's worthy of your viewers, of your viewship, your viewership, then I just won't do it. But you know, I welcome the ideas and I welcome the requests. If there's something you would like to watch. Sometimes watching somebody paint something doesn't only guide you, but it inspires you, because you sometimes get ideas that you may not have had before. And I'm going to do this last one. It's kind of laying down And ferns are so beautiful. If you've ever taken a walk in the woods, and the ferns that are just covering the ground, and they're just everywhere. They're absolutely gorgeous. I've never had one in my house though. I've heard that they're pretty easy to keep as long as your house is warm. I have a cool one. I keep my home very cool, so I don't know if it would do very well. Here we go. And I'm still not going to go in there just yet. I don't want to mess up the fun stuff I've got going on. So I'm going to work on this. So because I used a watercolor pencil here, you don't have to use a watercolor pencil. You could use your paint. I just did it for time's sake, really. So what I'm trying to do here is wake up the watercolor. So the watercolor pencils, you put it down and it goes on dry, and then when you add water, you see it kind of wakes up that watercolor. So I'm going in between where I put all the pencil. Some of it I did put too light, I think, but that's okay because I can always go in with other color, which is what I will do now. I'm going to go in with some raw sienna. And it doesn't have to be every single stroke, you know, you could just kind of drop it in here and there. I'm getting sloppy. I'm always trying to paint so fast for the video because YouTube, they say, you know, there's times people like to watch, they prefer, say, a 30-minute video than a 34-minute video. I don't know. It's a bit daunting, all these rules you're supposed to follow. All right, and down at the bottom, I want this to be more green. So I'm going to pop in a bit of my sap green. And just kind of let it fade into the rest. Okay, I think this is good enough here. So what I want to do is make the center look pretty dark, and I want to go in between these leaves, but I don't want to overdo the detail because, as I often mention in my videos, I think we always try to make things look too much like the picture, and it's a painting. So let's just enjoy the painting part. If I could find my brush. Okay. So I just have like an inexpensive cheapy thin one, and we're going to try that out. I'm going to add to my sap green, I've added a little bit of indigo or Payne's Gray, whatever it is you have that you like to use. So I'm just going to pop in some swirls like this, and in between here I'm going to, like that, just make it look as if there are some dark, you can see between these fronds or whatever they're called, just so you could see the difference between one and the other. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to do this between each frond that you painted. It's just to add a little bit of shadow, so it gives it a bit of depth. So that it looks like these are layered on top of one on top of the other. And in some areas it's a little bit harsh, so I'm going to just sort of soften some of these lines. Some of them you want them harsh, and others you want it a little softer. And this one is the even cooler color. So this one is Hooker's green with the what do you call that? Indigo or Payne's Gray. I say or because they're very, very similar to each other. So most of them anyway. They all have shades of blue and black. So I'm going to take this time to let it dry well, and I'm erasing any pencil lines that I see. As you can see, this is a different painting. It's because I paused my camera and went to dry something, and then I forgot to turn it back on. So what I decided to do was use a purple red color that I mixed on my own to add some color to this painting, because I did find it a little bit dull. So I chose the complement of green is red, and the complement of yellow, which, because it's a yellowy green, is purple. So I mixed them together, and voila, I came up with this kind of maroon color or wine color, and I quite like it. And in my original painting, which you'll see at the end, I splash too. I splash all over the painting, and I really liked how it turned out. It's kind of just what it needed. So to incorporate that color though into the painting, because it isn't anywhere else right now except for the underneath the plants, I added some to the Fiddlehead and just dropped it in here and there. You don't have to, this isn't exactly what I did because it's not the same painting, but I added some to the stem and some in where the darks are. And it's very subtle, but as I've often said in my videos, these little subtle details are really what finishes your painting off. So this is the finished painting, all full of my lovely splatters, and I hope you really like it. If you did like this video, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And don't be shy to leave me a comment. I'd just love to hear from you. Happy watercoloring. Bye-bye.